Dr. Kate Williams is with me once again, Royal Historian.
Hello.
How did you enjoy your first day at Royal Ascot?
It was marvellous. I didn't place any bets, but I think I'm going to have a go today.
You're going to be sort of scientific in your approach,
I mean, that £100,000 bet yesterday wasn't me, but, you know, perhaps today.
I don't think it was any of us. It was a bit scary. Kate's going to be helping us go through the royal procession and keeping you informed with all of her historical tidbits about the royal family, not just about our present Queen, but also about monarchs from years gone by. But these are live shots of the royal procession approaching the Golden Gates at the top of the racecourse, and very brave actually in the conditions, given that rain is forecast, showers are certainly forecast, but still we have the open barouche carriages so that the crowd here can get a clear look at the Queen and the Duke of Edinburgh. And for those that have had bets on the colour of the Queen's hat, mint green is the winner. The Queen wearing a pale mint green wool crepe dress and coat by Stuart Parvin, and that green hat by Rachel Trevor Morgan. And in the first carriage we have the Queen and the Duke of Edinburgh, and joining them today Sir Peter O'Sullivan. Sir Peter, 94 years old now, worked as a commentator from 1946 to 1997, his last commentary on the BBC coming on the Hennessy Gold Cup at the age of 79, and also with Sir Peter, John Warren, who is the Queen's bloodstock and racing advisor, and keeps her informed of all of the movements of her horses and visits the trainers and talks to them on a regular basis. But there is Sir Peter, and actually if you think about that leading carriage, between them the age is over 320 years. That is not bad, it really isn't. Fantastic to see them all looking so well, and we will be talking about Her Majesty the Queen in more detail when we've seen the other carriages, because in the second carriage we find Her Royal Highness the Princess Royal, Her Royal Highness Princess Beatrice as well, Mr. Harry Legburke, who was Page of Honour to the Queen between 1985 and 1987, an officer in the Welsh Guards, and also Mr. Jeremy Richardson, who for many years ran the Injured Jockeys Fund. And the Princess Royal is Britain's representative on the International Olympic Committee, rode at the Olympics herself, as did Captain Mark Phillips, and now their daughter this summer, Zara Phillips, will do exactly the same at the London Olympics, the equestrian events, the eventing taking place in Greenwich. In the third carriage we have the Duke of York's younger daughter, Princess Eugenie, closest to the camera, the Honourable Edward Tollemache. And Edward Tollemache is a godson of the Prince of Wales, his wife Sophie, and Lieutenant Colonel Charles Richards, who is equerry to the Queen. Charles Richards there with the black top hat. Luckily the wind seems to have died down on that straight course, because I think otherwise hands would be two hats, as it were, to keep them in place. And in the final carriage, in carriage 4, we have the Honourable Ronnie Arcouli, who is chairman of the Hong Kong Jockey Club, and his colours very well known in racing. He's owned those good horses, Red Clubs, Red Caddo, who was second in the Melbourne Cup, and Red Jazz, and his wife Joanne is also in the carriage with them, and the other two faces you will be extremely familiar with, because Mr. and Mrs. Michael Middleton, Michael and Carol Middleton, are in the carriage, the mother and father of the Duchess of Cambridge. Prince William celebrating his 30th birthday today, so he and his wife Kate not here at the races, but they got married on the 24th of April last year in front of 24 million people watching in the UK alone. But Kate, I think billions worldwide watched the royal wedding.
Oh yes, absolutely. Particularly in the United States, it was just an incredibly popular occasion. The romance, the beauty, and it really has given a massive boost to the royal family's popularity. William is really number 2 in popularity behind the Queen. It's absolutely fascinating, a big change.
And crowds, young and old, gathered here to watch the royal procession, making sure that they get their position on the rail so they get a really good look at this, and around the paddock as well.
We're not daunted by rain, we're not.
No. The Queen deliberately carrying a transparent umbrella and actually matching a mint green to
matching the whole lot, the umbrella matching everything. She's thought carefully.
I have to confess, I haven't brought a purple umbrella with me today. I should have
You
thought
haven't got a
about
purple
that.
umbrella?
No.
No.
Now, we've had an awful lot of queries for you, Kate, and questions that arise. I think, as always, the more information people get, the more they want to know, which is fantastic. Duke of Edinburgh being very animated there.
I bet he's telling some good jokes in there.
And the Queen as well. I think they're waving at those who've come on bicycles who are the other side of the fence.
Other side.
And Sir Peter O'Sullivan deep in conversation there with John Warren. Obviously the Queen today, as she did yesterday, with a runner who has a good chance. I mean, not necessarily guaranteed winner, but momentary has a very good chance in the second race. Now, one of the questions we had for you from Nicola Bailey was, what was Queen Victoria's interest in racing?
Yes, well, Queen Victoria was a very keen racer. She first came to Ascot very quickly after she became Queen, and in fact there was a great innovation in 1839, 2 years after she became Queen, that the winner was put up on a great big blackboard so everyone knew. And she had a lot of very successful horses, but she didn't actually attend Ascot after the death of Prince Albert in 1861. She wanted to mourn him, but she did have a great success.
So was there no royal procession in those years?
No, there was no royal procession. There were no foreign royals invited, really, until her son, Edward VII, became king, and he reinstigated it. He was a terribly excitable racer. He loved high society. He was desperate to get out of his mother's shadow, and he instigated back in the glamour, the glitz. You know, he'd have loved a ladies' day. There's nothing more Edward VII like than a few good-looking ladies in a hat and an umbrella.
Given your study of monarchs over the years, for you, how have the female monarchs differed in the way they present themselves to the public, the likes of Elizabeth I or Queen Mary or Queen Anne or Queen Victoria or our current Queen?
I think when Queen Victoria was born, her maternal grandmother said the English like queens, and I think we really do. I think we love queens in this country. So it's very interesting that from now on, when William and Kate, if they happen to have a little girl, she will inherit the throne with the same rights as a little boy would have done. We love queens in this country, and I think some of our favourite monarchs, Victoria, Elizabeth I, Elizabeth II, have been queens, and I think they've done so well because it's a very difficult job to be queen. On one hand, you have to be a great ruler, you have to be successful, but you also have to fulfil the demands of modesty. So when Elizabeth I gave that incredibly famous speech, I have the body of a weak and feeble woman, but the heart and stomach of a king, that's the job of a queen. You've got to have both.
And for Elizabeth I, obviously famously ruled without getting married. Queen Victoria lost Prince Albert relatively young, and the difference for our current Queen is by her side is the Duke of Edinburgh.
That's it. She's our longest married monarch, fell in love with him when she was just 13. He said to her, let's go and jump some nets at Dartmouth Naval College. He went down, jumped some nets, and that was it. She was in love with him. No change.
Jumped some nets?
Yes, they jumped over tennis nets, and he was 18 and she was 13, and splendid at jumping over tennis nets, and she never wanted anyone else. And throughout the war, she had her picture on her mantelpiece, and they said to her, that might be a bit obvious. She said, okay, I'll put him in disguise, and got one with him with a big beard. No one would know.
It's a brilliant story. I thought yesterday the Prince of Wales might be here, because he usually is when the Prince of Wales Stakes is run, but of course he and the Duchess of Cornwall were meeting the Dalai Lama.
Yes.
And the Dalai Lama and Prince Charles have had many conversations over the years, and the Dalai Lama is here on a 10-day tour.
Absolutely, and Prince Charles himself has made a lot of suggestions that he may be defender of the faiths when he becomes to be king, not just defender of the faith. So it's something he's very interested in, world religions. Of course, I mean, I presume they're all there planning, you know, a great big cake for William that lots of dancing girls can jump out of. Now he's 30 today, that great milestone. Apparently they're planning a low-key celebration, William and Kate. That's what I've heard. Not that I was invited. Were you, Claire?
It's so low-key, no.
No, they've lost our invitations.
Tens of thousands of Union flags have been handed out, being waved enthusiastically, and in just a few seconds we will hear the national anthem from the band of the Coldstream Guards. And the royal procession now makes its way off the racecourse. They've come up the middle of the course there. And we've got a good feel for what the ground might be like.
Bit soggy. Maybe just a little bit wet.
A little bit soggy. And actually the royal procession makes sure that they plough a different furrow, as it were, every day, so that they don't wear a particular track on the course. The Queen, obviously understanding racing as deeply as she does, knowing that the carriages and the horses could start to churn up the ground if they went on the one spot every time. There would be a track there that you would see from miles away, and particularly on a day like today, when it is a little bit softer in terms of the ground.
In general, the Queen's a great fan of rain. The royal family throughout the years have loved the rain. Queen Victoria was always dragging out her poor ladies in waiting in the rain. I think the only day the Queen doesn't like the rain is today at Royal Ascot.
And so much enthusiasm and energy, not just for the sport, but also for the entertaining side of it. And the guests who appear in the royal procession are all by invitation personally of the Queen.
I'm often asked, how can I get to be in that carriage ride too? But it is at the personal invitation of the Queen, and it is her choice. And she is particularly good friends with people who have a tradition with racing. Racing is a great interest of hers. She loves to talk about it. She loves to talk about horses. Ever since she's been a little girl, some of her favourite friends as a little girl were the little girls who also loved horses, and it's really important to her. So I think it's marvellous to her that she can invite people to Windsor Castle and have a great big marvellous chat about horses and racing and all the successes we're going to see this week. I mean, who knows what she thinks about black caviar at the weekend.
Well, that will be hugely exciting, and so much interest from Australia in the fortunes of black caviar. Unbeaten in 21 races so far, she's running, and is hot favourite for the Diamond Jubilee Stakes, a race for which the Queen will make the presentation, as indeed she will do today after the Gold Cup. The Countess of Wessex is here with, I think that's Lady Elizabeth Anson with her. And the Countess of Wessex has been here every day, actually, and I think actually genuinely beginning to get to know people in racing quite well and enjoying it more and more.
Yes, definitely. I think she really, I mean, they live very close, they live in Windsor. I think she really does enjoy it. It really does. It's really a part that she can really enjoy for herself as well. I think, you know, the royal family, many of them are never happiest than when riding horses.
And lovely as well to see Princess Beatrice and Princess Eugenie becoming regular attendees at Royal Ascot and striking out on their own as they do more in their own names.
Now Beatrice has finished her degree. She has lots more freedom to look at charities, to look at her work, and we really are seeing the younger generation of the royal family coming to the fore, being much more publicly obvious, and so the Queen and the Duke of Edinburgh can, I think, take a little bit more of a back seat and give a few more of the jobs to the younger royals, because really the Duke of Edinburgh has been going at the pace of a 30-year-old.
I do think, as well as being a tremendous honour and privilege to ride in the royal procession, it's also great fun, and I'm so thrilled that Sir Peter O'Sullivan is there in the lead carriage and will have enjoyed it hugely. A different way for him to see the racecourse, having commentated on so many races here over the years.
And as we were saying yesterday, it began with George IV in 1825. It was a way of really rewarding some of his friends, and I think it's so important to Queens. The Ascot itself was thanks to Queen Anne, who went out riding one day and said, actually, that looks like a good place for some horses to go racing. So the first race was in 1711, and 7 horses ran round and round bearing 12 stones, so pretty heavy. So it's all thanks to the Queens, I think, that we've got Ascot today. And so it's very fitting that the Queen Elizabeth II, in her Diamond Jubilee year, is really seeing it as its best.
And I said earlier in the programme that she has a personal message in the front of the race card this year, and extending a warm welcome to everybody attending Royal Ascot. And she says the best horses convene here, trained and ridden by the best in their profession, and increasingly we have competitors and visitors joining us from all over the world, and that's sort of rubber stamping the policy of Ascot to go out and actively seek people from Australia and from France. Obviously, we've often had runners here from France and from Ireland, but from Hong Kong, and but particularly I think the Commonwealth nations being so important. So having Australian interest is, you know, it makes it even more significant this week.
You're so right, Claire. The Commonwealth is so important to the Queen. If her father saw himself as the King of Empire, she sees herself as the Queen of Commonwealth, and it's always been so important to her. When she was a little girl, she used to line up her horses outside her bedroom every night. She used to feed and water them and take off their saddles and polish them, and then she used to play on her rocking horse. She was an incredibly enthusiastic rider right from a child. So I think it's almost a dream come true. When she said she was little, she said, "When I'm queen, I shall make sure that horses have a rest on Sundays and no one shall dock their pony's tail." And she's right. We don't have any racing on Sundays.
We do now, though.
Oh, yes.
Yes, we do now. Kate, lovely to have you here again,
Thank you.
and we will look forward to seeing and hearing from you again tomorrow.
Thank you, Claire.
That's Kate Williams, who is a royal historian and absolutely brilliant, all of her knowledge.